Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today's topic, I want to talk about something that might hit a little heavy, but I hope it doesn't really get to you too much. I wanted to talk about what kind of wardrobe you as a Christian woman should be wearing when you're doing church activities, when you're outside of church, and when you're going to church. What kind of wardrobe you should wear that's representing your Heavenly Father. And so for this topic, it might be a little bit too much for people who feel that they should be able to wear what they want. But I just wanted to talk on that, and I felt like in my heart from God in heaven, He wanted me to talk about it, that is very much needed. Because if you look at some of the women who are actively involved in church, or some women who are in the industry of singing gospel music, or in the acting industry as far as spiritual and following God and saying they're a Christian, some of their wardrobe is becoming a little bit too provocatively. It's what they have on, it's exposing a little bit too much. And sometimes some women give the excuse, just my opinion, that they just have too much meat on their body, and this is just the reason why I have to wear this. There's always some excuse why someone is wearing something when they're going to church, if it's just too revealing, and it's always some excuse why they have it on. When you go to, let's say if you were in a room and Jesus was in the room and He called you to come there, and before you came in that room, you're not going to walk in there with that half-naked clothing on. He's going to make sure that you have on a proper attire before you even sit down and talk to Him. And so you have to look at it in that way. That's the correct way of looking at it. And so when you're going to church, there's just certain clothing you should be wearing. When I went to church, I did not wear, like, let's say when I first started going, I did not come in a young Christian wearing provocatively dressed clothing. As I got older, I still didn't. Me as a female, I'm very top heavy at the top, meaning my breasts are very large. And so at the age of a young girl, I was taught how to cover up my top part of my body. My mother was the opposite. She was bottom heavy. And my mother was very full figure. Like, she had a lot of meat on her body. And looking at what she wore and what I wore, there's a way to go into church dressing appropriately. When you see women telling you that I can't wear this because I have too much meat on my body, or I was born like this, it's an excuse to God to tell God, I don't want to wear what you feel I should be wearing. I want to wear what I want. And women who are going to church, going looking for men, dressing inappropriately, knowing they're going in there for one particular mission, they're not following God at all. They're following outside world demonic influence activity. I remember being involved in a church a long time ago when I was in my late 30s. I'm 51 right now. There was this girl who used to sing in the choir, and there was at one point that this girl would get on the stage purposely with her dress was very long. She had a skirt that was very long. But we started noticing that her slit on the side of her dress as the months went by, it would start getting a little more higher, to the point the pastor had to have a talk with her, not just the pastor, but the first lady. And I guess she just didn't really agree with that. And the pastor and the first lady had to have a talk with her, and they finally had to tell her that she could not be singing in the choir if she's going to be dressed like that. I think she was in the praise team, not the choir. She was in the praise team. And this show you how Satan has a lot of control over people. That little talk that they had with her, because they just had that one little talk with her, she was gone. Because her energy was to do that. And she was being influenced to do that. Her influence was to do that. And that was her main mission. Her thing was, I hear what you're saying, but I actually still want to do what I want. I want to still dress like this, and if you can't accept it, then I'm gone. Now, I wasn't in the meeting with what she was saying, but I know that this was her reasoning for leaving. And next thing you know, she wasn't there anymore. So when you come into church, there's different ways that people do stuff. She didn't dress very provocatively. She just used one little instrument to kind of sneak what she wanted to wear. Even though her skirt was all the way down to her knees, not her knees, but her ankles, she had this split that went all the way up on her leg. And when she would sit down on the stage, you can see it going all the way up her leg. She dressed very mellow. She was one of those women that dress very mellow, but that one little, there's little things that people do in church. They're trying to get away with it. And I know God is bringing that to my attention. People use the most smallest things to get away with stuff. And that's one of the things that she was doing. So when you go to church and you see someone dressed in an appropriate way, and not just only members or not visitors, people that are visiting for the first time, they are not, if they're not in their Bible, they're not really understanding. But if you're going to church and you've been there for like 6-7 months or even 2 or 3 months, you should know by now how you should be dressing. Now, some people don't have the financial support and they're financially strained. It's okay. If you have a family member that can help you with clothing, or go to the church. Normally, a lot of churches have a lot of used clothing. Now, some people have issue with used clothing. Me, I grew up in an environment where I never had issue with it. My mother found the best clothing at a used clothing store. And until this day, I still shop buy some of my wardrobe at the used clothing store. No matter how much income I have to buy new clothes, I still buy a mixture. There's nothing wrong with new clothes. But some people have issues with that. I dealt with some people when my kid was very young who had an issue with used clothing, and I don't understand that. Wash the clothing. If you have an issue with it, just wash it. Someone's giving it to you. I took whatever clothing that they gave me for my child when he was a little baby. And to show you how God bless you, I remember 2 members, and I'll be really short with this, really brief, who gave me a bunch of clothes for my son and my stepson, because they had sons that were older than our kids. And so anytime their kids grew out of clothes, they gave clothes to us. They offered the clothing to someone else, and she completely says she doesn't put her baby in used clothing. I don't understand that. So, no matter if it's used clothing or not, you want to wear clothing that's appropriate for the church and that's pleasing to God's eye. You want God to look down on you as his daughter and say, I'm raising a beautiful queen. She's walking around in the way that I have taught her to walk and dressing in the way that I have taught her to dress. Don't give Satan excuses to use you as a tool in church to do what you want, because there are little girls in the church just looking up to you in your wardrobe. I have been to churches where you would see little girls dressed in a certain way, and you're like, why are they dressed like that? And someone said because the pastor's wife dressed like that, and so they're mimicking her. That goes for pastor wives, wives that are pastors. I was a former pastor wife, so I'm speaking from a person who have a lot of experience in that. I'm not just speaking from a person who's sitting behind the mic who don't have any knowledge. My husband was a pastor. When he was alive, he was a pastor. And so I knew how to dress. In the church I came from, what I loved about the pastor's wife and him, they dressed very right in the church. The wife never wore anything provocatively. She was never one of those young ladies. She's still like that. She's much older than me, but she's still like that. She's not into wearing flamboyant clothing, glitter, none of that. You would go into church and people would always say to folks, I would hear them, I bet you can't find the pastor's wife. And the first thing people would say is that lady over there with the hat on. Nothing wrong with people wearing hats in church. I think hats are beautiful. But she was she was very mellow, low-key in her dressing, and she still is today. That's the way you want to be. You want to have that respect in God's eye. You want to be respected. And when people would see who she was, they were like, wow. And then she's very sweet. That's how you want to represent yourself as far as your clothing is concerned. You don't want to be in the point where people automatically know, yeah, look at her clothes. It's okay to look nice. It's okay to have makeup on. It's okay to get your hair done, your nails done. The issue is your clothing. You want to walk around and represent God. There's clothing out here that people can wear. I know years ago God wanted me to design some clothes, and I need to get into doing that. Because it's very vital that women understand that they need to represent Father in heaven, not trying to be of the world. There's too many people who are in the world coming to church, still holding on to the world of dressing. You want to dress in the way that God wants you to dress. You want to dress as if you're going in a meeting to talk to God in heaven. That's the way you want to dress. When you go in a meeting to talk to Jesus, are you going to go in there dressed in a way that he knows you shouldn't be dressing? You have to look at it that way. If you got up in the morning, God said, I'm going to interview each one of you on earth individually. And I want you to put your best attire on for me. How would you dress when you went into the meeting talking to him? Would you dress the same way that you're dressing now? Or would you rush out and get some clothes and he'll tell you, you can't get any new clothes. I've closed all the stores. You have to wear what you got in your closet. Now you remember going to church. And he tell you, when you come and see me, I want you to wear all white. Or let's say white and cream. He said, nothing but white and cream. What would you put on? So you have to look at it like that. You can wake up the next day, you have to look at it like that. So I just wanted to talk on that subject because I feel that it's very vital. A lot of women are using an excuse about their wardrobe. Men have issues with theirs too. Because this channel is more geared towards women, that's the reason I'm talking about women wardrobe in general. But men, what I see with some men, their wardrobe and their pants are very tight. And shirts tight too. Those are the things you want to watch out for being a man going to church. But that's not for me to address. Mine is just to address women. So I hope this was helpful to you to understand what kind of wardrobe you should be wearing. Stop giving excuses that I can't buy something because I have too much meat on my body. There are shirts and tops and stuff that will help you camouflage a lot of what you're trying to cover up. Like I said, I'm very top heavy. I have big breasts, and so I have to wear tops that are appropriate for my top heavy part. So you have a wonderful and blessed day. And I hope this helped you in so many ways. God bless. Bye.